Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to Soulful Thoughts from Ireland, and especially welcome to the new year of 2022. May you, your loved ones, our earth and her creatures, all beings everywhere, be blessed with loving fortitude as we continue our earthly journey in these difficult times. I'm Megan Dunn, your host, mystic teacher, award-winning author, and all-round fun-loving and joyful being. I feel it's important to include these aspects, especially at this time, to remember the joy that lives within us. And so January the 6th, when this podcast is first airing, is the celebration of the Epiphany, the time of revelation. And to help celebrate with me today is my dear friend and colleague, Martin Rutte from Prince Edward Island in Canada. Martin is an international speaker and management consultant who explores the deeper meaning of work and its contribution to society. He is a co-author of the New York Times business bestseller, Chicken Soup for the Soul at Work, with over 1 million copies sold. His newest book, Project Heaven on Earth, The 3 Simple Questions That Will Help Change the World, easily explores the deep yearning for the kind of world you want and the simple, easy, concrete steps you can take to make that happen. Martin calls that discovering what heaven on earth is for you and activating a simple plan to begin making it real. So welcome, dear Martin. I am so happy to speak with you today and to hear your epiphanies and revelations as we move into this new year. Welcome to you.
Megan, a delight to be with you as always.
Great, great. So before we move into Project Heaven on Earth, I did want to let our listeners know how you and I met, because it was such a great and unique meeting. And, you know, it just gives a personal sense of how you and I came together, which I think is important. And so it all began with an email I received from this man called Martin, who I did not know and had never met. And in that email was an invitation to come and stay the night with him and Maida, his wife, on Prince Edward Island. At the time, I was in Nova Scotia, and the people I was staying with were seriously questioning me going. I was feeling like, okay, I don't know who this guy is, but, you know, it feels like the thing to do. The people I was staying with were saying, okay, if you're going to stay, we want all the details, where you're going, you know, call us when you get there. And so they wanted to make sure I was safe. But I would say this to you, dear listeners, right now. When the feeling is right to do something, even when it goes against all logic and apparent safety, just do it. Just do it. Because it was the best thing I ever did, was to make that journey over to Prince Edward Island to meet with Martin, as we had an extraordinary and wonderful meeting, enlivened conversations, and a soulful, forever relationships established, which to me is certainly a little bit of heaven on earth right here, right now. So, Martin, thank you for that initial invitation.
It's Megan, it's all flooding back to me. I remember that. And, you know, for me, I mean, I just do those things. It never even dawns on me that people would think, you know, who the heck is this guy and all that stuff. But of course, and I think when you came, didn't I tell you to call your friends like 2 or 3 times to ensure them that you were fine? I think we did that.
I think we did. Because we were saying, who is this couple? Really, where am I going and what am I going into? So yeah. So no, I just loved that meeting, and it just feels to me that it's so important to follow where we are guided and to follow those heart messages that say, yes, go. Yes, do it. So I thank you again. And I want you, if you will, to take us into Project Heaven on Earth. Let us know, like, how it came to be. Where does it come from? And what are these 3 simple questions that you have?
Yes. So I've done a lot of work as a management consultant in vision. I worked with large companies, Sony Pictures Entertainment, Marion Merrill Dow Consumer Pharmaceuticals, Virgin Records. I'd spoken 4 times at the Harvard Business School about vision. And so vision was very important to me. Following that piece of work, which still continues to this day, but then I moved into spirituality and work, because it dawned on me one day that we could talk about a lot of things at work, but we couldn't talk about spirituality. So how could we open that conversation? And so I helped to do that. And after about 20, 25 years working on spirituality and work, I was going to do a keynote address at a conference on spirituality and work in Santa Fe, New Mexico, in the US. And just before I was going on, I was meditating in the room by myself. And I thought, if every business in the world is spiritual, is that what you want? And I said, no. If we could transform business through spirituality, because business is the temporal power in the world, then we could transform the world. And then the thought popped into my head, oh, you mean heaven on earth. And Megan, my first thought was, oh my God, you can't say that. Actually, I used a swear word. You can't say that. And then I thought, well, why not? I couldn't talk about spirituality and work 20 years ago, and I can now. And so I began to be just intrigued, like, what is this? What's heaven on earth? I'm not a big reader. I'm a big interactor, as you know. So I started this inquiry into what's heaven on earth. And I would go around just asking people, what's heaven on earth for you? What's heaven on earth for you? What's heaven on earth for you? Over and over and over. And then these, what I call gateways into heaven on earth, began to appear, because people's answers to the question was, you could see the gateways very clearly. We'll get into those later in this discussion, but also out of that, asking people what's heaven on earth, what's heaven on earth, 3 very distinct questions emerged that helped people get in touch with what heaven on earth is for them. So one of the primary issues here is, I'm not going to tell you what heaven on earth is. That's proselytizing. That's me coming with the answer. I think it's more important to evoke the heaven on earth that already lives within you. And to do that, I've developed these 3 questions. And with your permission, Megan, I'd love to ask you the 3 questions. And as I'm asking, if the people listening, if you listening would either pause the recording at the end of each question and answer it for yourself, so you'll have a deeper understanding and appreciation of what I'm talking about. So can we do that together, Megan?
Sure, absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. So question number 1, recall a time when you experienced heaven on earth. Recall a time when you experienced heaven on earth. What was going on?
I have to, the one situation that comes immediately to mind is when I was visiting on the Aran Islands in Ireland here. And it was coming to the sunset time. And yet there was this golden light that was forming along the horizon between the sea and the sky. And I was in conversation with an elderly farmer. And there was this beautiful and natural pause between us. And it felt like a flow was happening, like a flow of energy, a flow of light that was happening between the heavens and the earth, between him and I. It was like there was no separation. That to me, it just felt like a true moment of heaven on earth.
I'm just going to go through the 3 questions, Megan, then I'll come back and talk about each one. So that was question 1. Thank you. Question 2, imagine you have a magic wand, and with this wand, you can actually have heaven on earth. Imagine you have a magic wand, and with this wand, you can actually have heaven on earth. What is heaven on earth for you?
In this time, in this moment for me, heaven on earth would be a physical space, a gathering of people who would be able to sit in the same field of energy, the same flow of togetherness. And especially at this time, even when these people didn't agree with each other, so that they could sit compassionately together in a field of love, where again, no sense of separation, and allowing each to hold what might be important for them without judgment, and to be fully accepted and embraced in those beliefs or whatever is important to them. And yet this greater field of love binding everybody together.
Very clear. Now, the 3rd question. What simple, concrete, easy, concrete step will you take in the next 24 hours to have more of that?
Well, that's a very interesting one, isn't it? To be honest, I feel a slight restriction around that, because I really want this to be a physical connection with people, because we're doing it on Zoom all the time. However, okay, the first concrete step I can do is simply when I am out and about, or walking or talking with others, that my heart can be deliberately open to embrace anybody and everybody and whatever views they may be holding in that moment and that time. So I think that's a realistic first step right now within the next 24 hours. Can I give a 3rd step, maybe like later?
Yes, of course, if you'd like.
So this is you. I'm also like a big on the vision. So ultimately, and I feel this is like where I would like to go, is to actually have a space where I can invite people of different beliefs and persuasions, and the angst that is in our world right now between different factions, like to just provide a space of peace and openness and compassion, just to sit together, to meditate together, to celebrate together, to enjoy together, to remember our humanity together. That is and to just let that move out into the world. So there you have that. That's what I would like to do with my wand.
Very good. Very good. So the three questions, let me go through them again. And you, the listener, please pause at the end of each question and answer it for yourself. So question one, recall a time when you experienced heaven on earth. What was going on? And you talked about being with that farmer, looking out, just how beautiful. I mean, I was right there with you. What you did not do, Megan, and what hardly anybody does, is ask Martin, what do you mean by heaven on earth? And that's always struck me as remarkable. I do not define heaven on earth, and yet you know exactly what I'm talking about. You scan your life and you go, oh, the time with the farmer, this time, whatever the time is, but you know. And that leads me to say that there is what I call within you, within each of us, an already knowing about what heaven on earth is. That's why I'm able to answer that question so quickly and easily. Then the second question, here's a magic wand, and with it, you can have heaven on earth. Now, the purpose of the magic wand is to remove the necessity of having to know how you're going to do it. If you don't have to know how, because that's the magic wand's job, you can just wave it and go, oh, I can just wave it and have whatever I want? Yes, you can. Well, then let me tell you what I want. And boom, people tell you, no, in your case, no separation, harmony, no judgment, accepted, confirmed, loved. You know exactly what heaven on earth is, Megan. People know. Pre-COVID, when I used to do in a room of 200-300 people, and they would stand up and talk about what heaven on earth is, each person clearly is unique to them. And when they're standing up and sharing, it just deepens that experience individually and collectively for everybody in the room. So that's the second question. Imagine you have a magic wand, and with it, you can have heaven on earth. What's heaven on earth? Simply by waving it, bang, there it is for you. And then the third question, what simple, easy, concrete step will you take in the next 24 hours to have more of that? I don't want to just leave it at you know what heaven on earth is, which is lovely. I want to actually have you begin engaging with making it real. It moves from a good idea to an actual manifestation because you say so, because you're doing your little step. And in your case, you're just talking about being open with people, loving them, just expressing your being and your heart so that they experience peace and openness and compassion as we sit together. And to take that then out globally into the world. So the three questions in essence say, you do already know what heaven on earth is because you've had an experience of it. Secondly, you do know what heaven on earth is in its fullness. And thirdly, there is a simple, that's a very key word, simple, easy, concrete step that you can take in the next 24 hours to begin to make that real. Because by taking that step, whatever it is, in and from the context of I am co-creating, I'm helping to co-create heaven on earth, to experience more heaven on earth, you're making it happen.
And what I like about that is, we might do some of these things naturally, but when we join the conscious intention to do it, you see, now I'm just feeling it right now as you were speaking. It was like, oh, so if I consciously step outside of my door saying, I now am going to take that first step to co-create heaven on earth, what happens immediately to me, Martin, is I see that initial experience that I described with the farmer, and I start to see that it's already here.
Yep.
And I start to feel that I feel very empowered because now even the simple step of being compassionate and loving with someone out there now takes on a whole different vibrational level. It takes on, it's like something other is joining with me and conspiring with me to actually make it happen.
Megan, I have nothing. We can end the interview right now. That's exactly it. Don't want to. We're not going to. That's it. You got it exactly. And then, so then when we go to a higher level from that, so now you are in that co-creating heaven on earth with whatever simple is for you. In the larger context, what we are doing is co-creating the new story of what it means to be a human and what it means to be humanity. Co-creating the new story of the individual and the collective, co-creating heaven on earth. And isn't it time? We've had enough of the COVIDs and the environmental issues and the threat of nuclear war and the refugees and the hunger and all the massive sufferings in the world. One of the things I've been saying is one of the silver linings of COVID, although I wish we didn't have it, is that it's forcing us to go deeper into the kind of world that we really do want and to begin making that happen.
Yeah, I remember when it first began, with COVID began, myself and a number of other people I know really came very deeply into an appreciation for the relationships that we have, for that relating, and for that sense of not being separate. I have to say, Martin, however, as time goes on, I notice people have lost that sense of appreciation, and sometimes I can even see the shall we say, the darker side of humanity coming forward with impatience and anxiousness and, all sorts of things. So I'm just feeling that this conversation is really important to draw people back into the vision that may have started to arise when COVID first started to arise, and to take this heaven on earth vision and to really step out of our homes and bring it into reality. I just think it's imperative. So thank you for bringing this forward. I think it's imperative for humanity's evolution.
Yeah. Thank you, Megan. Thank you for your very warm, generous words. Let me also talk about how it's showing up. It's much, much more than a good idea. About 3 weeks back, about middle of December, I did a little study. I went on to Google, and you, listener, can do that right now as you're listening. Go on to Google and in quotes, put the phrase heaven on earth. So in quotes, heaven on earth, and then the number 2020. So the 2020 is outside of the quote marks. 3 weeks ago, that number was 4,430,000. That's how many results there were for the phrase heaven on earth in 2020. Not all because of me, but just that's how many there were. 3 weeks ago, on December 19th, there were 8,080,000. So a rise of 82%, 2021 rather, over 2020. What that says to me is that this meme, this thought form of heaven on earth is coming into culture very powerfully. But it's like, if you go to the ocean and stand on the side of the ocean and there's a storm, it's a warm day, warm ocean, the not severe storm, but a storm, the waves are smashing around. You decide to go for a swim. It's safe. You've been in this ocean before and All right, so you swim out about 20, 30 feet and you dive underneath the surface. And what are you struck by? The silence, the peace, the transformation of the everything that's going on the surface. And if you think further, the majority of the ocean is under the surface, not on the surface. We've become, I think, too addicted to, too hooked into all the flotsam and jetsam and turmoil on the surface, rather than saying, okay, I do realize that's going on. I'm not denying it. I'm not denying the suffering that's come from COVID, not at all. And at the same time, underneath, it's also something is arising. The numbers for paradise are rising, for utopia. All those words and phrases that speak to the soul. It's like the divine soul saying, okay, enough with the turmoil on the surface. Good. It's going to continue for a little while, but I want you to go deeper. I want you to dive down and look and see what's really here. So for me, that's what's going on with Heaven on Earth. It's coming in very powerfully, but still globally, culturally, quietly.
Phenomenal figures there. I mean, I would never have thought that that you would get, 8,800,000 Google inquiries into it. That's
no, not inquiries, results. So that could be somebody mentioning it in their blog, somebody writing about it, somebody doing a video about it. But actual use. Yeah, not inquiries.
Oh, actual use. Oh, yes. My goodness. Yeah. Well, I mean, the many religious traditions have spoken over and over and over about, very, very difficult times coming on Earth, and which will be followed by the golden era, or the kingdom of God, or heaven on earth. All of the traditions have spoken this. And yes. It feels like that is exactly what we're living into. And so even more important that this vision is held as a reminder, or as a sense of deep hope for people, that this time has been predicted. This time is essential as a purging, as a purifying, as a cleansing, to move us into something much, much greater. So I love, though, that you bring these 3 simple questions to show how to actually make it a reality.
Yes.
That's the important thing. So it just doesn't stay in the vision. So I want to ask you, because it seems to me these questions also will change within us over time as we change and as we evolve. I can just feel that they will take maybe a different shape, a different color, that you start moving towards your vision, and then perhaps it sort of slightly shape shifts on the way, or your answers might slightly become more refined. So I would love to know, can you, for us, answer these questions from your perspective, right in this time right now?
I like the last part of the question, because I never come in with a fixed answer to the questions myself. So recall a time when you experienced heaven on earth. What was going on? I'm thinking yesterday before, my wife went out shopping, and I had to do some stuff, and I was at the top of the stairs, she was at the bottom, and she talked to me about what food was available for lunch. There's salmon, there's this, there's that. And I just looked down with such love at her care and concern that I had food for lunch. I could have made my own lunch, no issue, but no, that's not the issue. She had to make sure that I was looked after, and that was so touching to me. She does that lots, and every time, but that one was very special. Then the second question, imagine you have a magic wand, and with it you can have heaven on earth. What's heaven on earth for you? The realization by the global family, by our global family, that the time has come for heaven on earth, and that we are actually both experiencing it and co-creating more and more of it over time. That it's a lived reality, that it's no longer just a good idea, that people get it, that when you and I meet on a plane, for example, and we sit down, we don't know each other, what's your name, what do you do, and what are you doing for heaven on earth? What are you doing for heaven on earth? It becomes part of the normal social relational interaction of the world. And then the third part, what simple, easy, concrete step will I take in the next 24 hours? I will kiss my wife on the left cheek. Her face on the left cheek. I don't know where. That's what came up. That's what came up.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, of course, the left is the feminine, and the left is about, and the feminine is about receiving. So you are allowing her, by kissing her on the left cheek, to fully receive your love. And perhaps that the receiving is just as important at creating heaven on earth as in giving.
Yes, very good.
I love it. I love it. And while you were speaking, Martin, it just really came right through my whole being. I am heaven on earth. I am heaven on earth. And so every single person and being, we are all heaven on earth.
No one has ever said that, Megan, before. It's beautiful. Yeah. Absolutely beautiful.
I just felt it. I felt it in every cell of my body, and I'm still feeling it. It's like, yeah. And can you imagine if every being on this earth came into the fullness of that realization and the fruition of that realization? I mean, there it is.
Amen.
Whew.
So, in answer to your question, can I imagine it? Yes.
Well, and I guess really that is what all of the traditions have been asking us to realize for millennia.
When I started this work in line to that statement, one of the things I looked at is what and where is heaven? And so for most people, heaven is the place you go after you die. It's upstairs. The essence, the underlying foundation of all of that is not here, not now. We were kicked out of the garden, and it's a one-way street out. We can never go back. So I'm challenging all of that in the sense of, well, what good does that do us? Why don't we create heaven on earth here now? Why don't we create the garden, recreate the garden for the entire world? That seems to be like a noble purpose to engage with. I assert that your soul, your divine soul, knows why you are here. Get in touch with that and make that the purpose of your life.
Well, I would like to add to that. I don't think we were kicked out at all of paradise. I think, and this is actually comes from a very Gnostic interpretation, that really what happened was humanity's consciousness was asked to know itself in a land that appeared to have separation. And so it was asked to embrace its consciousness of unity, even with a sense of any kind of opposites. So the opposites were no longer seen as polarization or division or separation, but as a complement to come into the fullness of who we are, and for each person to become that. And so it's like, oh, there it is for me, because of my vision of heaven on earth is this, no more separation. So for me, that understanding is really important, that like you said, a new story can arise from that, and a new consciousness, and a new way of being, a new way of seeing. So it's just, I just love this. I just love it, because it feels like a translation to me is what you have done, a translation of many of the traditions, but bringing it right down here to earth. And I'll also say this about Teresa of Avila, and this is coming on what you said about, heaven being out there. Teresa of Avila, the great Spanish mystic, said, oh, if you want to go to heaven, she said, that is an awfully long way to go if you think it's outside of yourself. She said, oh no, it is right within you. It is right here, right now. And I love that. It's a long way to go if you think you got to go upstairs to heaven. So yeah. It's like all the mystic wisdom is being brought into a very accessible form for everybody. So beautiful work. I would love to ask you this, Martin. Can you give us an example of somebody taking that initial first step and then continuing with the second step and the third, and actually building something from this? Do you have examples of that?
I have tons of examples. And I also want to just tell people that my website, projectheavenonearth.com, if you go to look at stories, there's 63 examples of what people are doing all around the world. Also, my book, Project Heaven on Earth, on Amazon, tons of examples, because I wanted to show people that it's actually being done. So some examples, we start simply with a woman in Hawaii who grows microgreens and teaches people how to grow them. And when I asked her what heaven on earth was for her, what she was going to do about it, well, I don't know, what can I do? Anyway, she finally decided to embed her definition of heaven on earth at the end of every email she sends out. So she asked the second question: imagine you have a magic wand and with it you can have heaven on earth. What's heaven on earth for you? Then she says, for me, and in essence is recreating the garden. And she did that once at the end of every email, embedded it, and so now it goes out. We have a woman in Mexico City who smiles at 2 people a day. That's her job. We have a real estate agent who's created a program called A Home for Everyone, where every agent in her office donates a portion of every sale to a fund called A Home for Everyone. And then they hand out money. The last time I spoke to her, was that $400,000 had been raised, and they hand it out to people who either need a home or to organizations that are going to do something about creating a home for everyone. We have a woman who is very furious about violence against women and created a program called Making Change, in which she asked, this was in Canada, in which she asked everybody in her county to donate a penny a day to help end violence against women. It's called Making Change. They raised $2,500. They took that to the government of Canada, who gave them, Megan, $100,000 for each of the subsequent 3 years, $300,000 from a penny a day. A man who has begun a Facebook group called Africa, a Heaven on Earth Continent, a newspaper in Dehradun, India, that has on its masthead, it's all online now, Dehradun, a Heaven on Earth city. Every time that paper's published, people see that, see that, see that. A woman in Portugal who's created a Heaven on Earth website in Portuguese, Ser Nater, my Portuguese is not great, for the 250 million Portuguese-speaking people in the world. A police officer who's created a 16-page manual called Heaven on Earth for Law Enforcement. On and on and on. The ideas here in Prince Edward Island, we made a declaration, I first and then joined by others. Prince Edward Island is Canada's first Heaven on Earth province. We have a cafe that has a Heaven on Earth coffee blend, a tea merchant who's blended a Heaven on Earth tea blend, a jewelry store that hands out a little card with the 3 questions on it to over 10,000 people who have bought stuff from her. I interviewed each of the 4 political party leaders in this province, to asking them the 3 questions and asking them what Heaven on Earth is for Prince Edward Island. I teach every week at a drug and alcohol treatment center here on Heaven on Earth. I just finished an 8-week course once a week with the Sisters of St. Martha's, a Catholic nun order, on Heaven on Earth, transform their whole view of heaven. So you never know, if you're listening to this and it resonates with you, whatever that little idea or big idea, whatever idea you have, that you know is simple and easy for you to do and that will contribute to Heaven on Earth, do it. Do it because it will make an enormous difference. And on the website, projectheavenonearth.com, you can write me, you can sign up for a free course, free weekly blog. The book, Project Heaven on Earth, is on Amazon all over the world. There's lots that you can do that will support you. There's a Facebook group once you join the weekly blog. There's tons that you can do. There's tons of people. I told you about those numbers from 4 million to 8 million, 82% rise in 1 year. Something's going on here, Megan, something enormous.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I invite all of the listeners here to consider, and just hearing the simplicity, you know, of to smile at 2 people a day. It's like, you know, who can't do that, really? It's just like, yeah, embed something in your email or take it a step further. I just love the range, so that each person can actually do something that is manageable and that is realistic within, you know, people's busy lives. So, you know, I think that is encouraging in itself, and that it is doable, relatable, and accessible for every single person and every single child, because my sense is that children would love this.
We had a great Sikh teacher in London, Ontario, Canada, who got permission from the parents of the children, and asked 1 question per week. So over a 3-week period, she went into each of those questions. I never thought of children, but then she did it. Of course, police officers, whatever, a dentist. I have a dentist in Toronto. When you lean back in the chair and look up on the ceiling, it says Heaven on Earth.
Yeah.
She I know, Heaven on Earth in a dental practice. Who would ever think of such a thing? She won't say a word to you about it. If you ask, she'll speak to you. If you don't ask, she doesn't say a word. But it's there. She wanted to take it into her dental practice.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, yeah, I mean, I really see that children are heaven on earth. And as I said, we all this heaven on earth, the I am presence of that heaven on earth. So I want to thank you so much, Martin, for taking the time for this conversation. And I specifically asked you to come on at this time, being the first podcast for this new year, so that everybody who's listening can come to the new year with a greater sense of hope, with a greater sense of conscious intention, with the understanding and absolute knowledge that you can make a difference, that you can help create heaven on earth, the golden era that has been spoken about for centuries by the different teachers of many traditions, and now being spoken of and easily accessed through Martin's work. So please do visit projectheavenonearth.com, buy the book, find what speaks to you within, no matter how small it may be, and please take that first step. So Martin, thank you. Thank you so much for the work you do. Thank you for just being the wonderful, eccentric, loving human being that you are. I love it. Love you. And again, thanks for sending me that initial email. And I'm glad that you were like a good guy.
Thank you very much for our sisterhood, brotherhood for years. I mean, clearly we've been together before this lifetime.
Oh, yeah. I think we were two old rabbis together.
Yes.
I'm sure part of our conversation that first evening was on all the meanings of the Jewish letters and the alphabet. And it was, I don't think either of us slept that night. We were so enlivened.
That's right. And here we go again.
All right, Martin, thank you so much, and look forward to speaking soon.
Thank you so much, Megan. Bye-bye.
All right. So thanks, everybody, for listening. And please do tune again. Soulful Thoughts from Ireland on the third week of this new year, 2022, in January. Here we are. And be well, be hopeful, be full of conscious intention, and know you are heaven on earth. Slán.